the kingdom of Noristan. In the forgotten folds of time, hidden beyond mountains shrouded in mist and oceans untouched by mapmakers, lay a magnificent kingdom named Noristan, a land where rivers sang through the valleys and stars danced visibly above rooftops. Noristan was the jewel of the ancient world. Ruling over this fabled kingdom was a man of unmatched might. Both feared and admired, Emperor Qaisar al-Maut, the Lion of the Living. His palace was a marvel, domes carved from sapphire, pillars of white marble laced with golden inscriptions, and walls embedded with precious stones that glowed at night like stars. And yet, amidst all the splendor, a quiet storm brewed in the king's soul. He had conquered enemies, bent nature to his will, and even claimed to have outwitted time with the construction of the eternal clock tower, which never ticked a second out of sync. But there was one shadow he could not command, one enemy he could not see yet knew awaited him: death, a whisper in the dark. The king would often gaze at the horizon and wonder, what lies beyond? What becomes of kings when they fall? Are their names really eternal, or do they simply vanish? Haunted by these thoughts, Qaisar summoned sages, alchemists, necromancers, and scholars from across the continents. His proclamation echoed through valleys and deserts. To the one who brings me dominion over death itself, I grant a reward beyond imagination, half my kingdom, 1,000 servants, and a name sung for eternity. Many came, none succeeded. One offered the elixir of life, which turned out to be honey and opium. Another brought an ancient scroll, claiming it could bind souls into stone, but it only contained a forgotten lullaby. One man even claimed he had met death and bribed him, but he dropped dead before he could finish the tale. Years passed. Hope faded. Then came a day of storm and silence when an old mystic entered the court. Clad in simple linen, with a wooden staff and a silver eye, he bowed neither in fear nor reverence. "O king," he said, "you seek to conquer the unconquerable? But death is not an enemy of man. Death is his mirror." The court scoffed. The king, however, leaned forward. "Speak, old one. If you truly wish to face death, to stand before the truth of your mortality, then follow me. Through 7 forsaken valleys and 3 scorched mountains lies the cave of oblivion. There you shall meet what you fear." "And what if I don't return?" the king asked. "Then you will have found your answer." The journey into the unknown. The next morning the king departed, not with his armies, but with 7 companions: a silent swordsman, a poet, a young priest, a philosopher, a healer, a mapmaker, and the mystic himself. First valley, the river of regret. The travelers reached a valley flooded by a slow-moving river, but as they crossed, the water shimmered with images from their past: failures, betrayals, sins. The king saw the face of his younger brother, executed for treason, a treason never proven. The poet screamed and collapsed into the river, his guilt too heavy to carry. He was never seen again. Qaisar stood silently, his jaw clenched, and walked forward. Second valley, the desert of echoes. The valley was dry, cracked, and vast. Every word spoken echoed 1,000 times louder, disfiguring meaning. The swordsman spoke once, and his voice came back twisted, violent and monstrous. He covered his ears, howled, and ran into the desert. They never found him. From then on, the group walked in silence. Third valley, the forest of false faces. Trees whispered, calling the travelers by name. From between trunks, family members and lovers emerged, beckoning them home. The priest rushed toward what he thought was his sister, but when he embraced her, his body turned to ash. The king felt his mother's voice in the wind, calling softly, but he resisted. The mystic only said, "Illusion is the final test before truth." The mountains of flame and shadow. After weeks, the remaining 4 reached the mountains. Black as coal, their peaks bled smoke. Each mountain tested a different strength. First mountain, fire. Flames danced along the paths. The philosopher tried to reason with the fire, citing ancient fire gods. He was burned in silence. Qaisar carried the healer through the blaze, shielding her with his cloak. Second mountain, hunger. No food or water for 7 days. The healer, weakened from burns, could not go on. She whispered her thanks to the king and let herself be buried under stone. Only 3 remained. Third mountain, the shadow climb. Here, one's own shadow grew heavier with each step. The mapmaker wept, muttering apologies to a dead son. At the summit, his shadow consumed him. Now only the king and the mystic remained. The Cave of Oblivion. The cave stood before them like a mouth at the end of the world. Inside, a light pulsed, soft and golden. The walls shimmered with scenes of life, a child's laughter, a mother's lullaby, a soldier's final breath. In the center stood death, but it was not a beast or monster. It was a woman, tall, graceful, in flowing white, her eyes endless and still. "Welcome, Qaisar," she said. "You've come far." The king drew his sword. "I have come to defeat you." She smiled. "What will you strike?" "I am not made of flesh." He hesitated. "You are not the first to seek immortality. Many tried, some with blood, some with love, some with machines. None succeeded. I am not like others." "No," she nodded, "you are not. You made it here. But tell me, if you could live forever, alone, unfeeling, unchanging, would you?" The king thought. Images of his lost companions flashed in his mind. The poet's scream, the healer's quiet courage, the priest's ash. "What is life without loss?" He whispered. "Now you understand," Death said, walking toward him. "It is because life ends that it matters." His sword fell. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "Then I do not wish to conquer you. I wish to understand you." Death smiled, gently, kindly. "Then you, my king, have conquered everything. Return in legacy." Qaisar returned to Nuristan, no longer seeking to live forever, but to live fully. He transformed his rule. The eternal clock tower, once a symbol of control over time, was turned into a library of memory, where every life story was preserved. He abolished slavery, offered education to all, and planted gardens where gallows once stood. And when his final day came, he walked alone into the mountains. They say his body was never found, but flowers bloom where he vanished, and children hear lullabies in the wind. Epilogue. The true victory. Death did not lose, nor did she win, but the king who sought to conquer her learned the greatest truth. To accept death is not to surrender, but to honor the preciousness of every breath. And in doing so, Qaisar al-Maut became eternal, not in body, but in memory, in kindness, and in story.